All right, awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm still letting some people in, so just know that I'm kind of multitasking watching the waiting room. But my name is Melissa Stoker. I'm the one who's been emailing you all, so you've been getting emails and information from me left and right. I do want to say thank you all so much for your flexibility with last night. I know we had planned to have Ignite and everything like that, and then we had a last minute change. So we will be having Ignite Day 5 set goals. It's just going to be on June 15th. So that's the Wednesday after Ignite was scheduled to be finished. I did send out a recording of a past one if you can't make it on June 15th, because I know that was not like the original plan, but I just wanted to let you all know that it's definitely still happening. Our goal is to basically have you go through all of Ignite, and then we'll talk about how to set goals with all the information that you've learned at that point and really where to go from there. And that class is going to be taught by Jack Crutchfield, and he's the regional tech trainer or regional tech director for the entire Maryland, DC area. So it's really cool to hear from him and kind of be able to get that expertise. It's just that we had to change it from last night. So again, thank you so much for your patience and flexibility with that. And I'm excited to see you all tonight. So again, my name is Melissa. I'm the operations coordinator for the coaching department at KW Legacy, so right out of Towson. And I'm excited to talk to you all about your database is your business tonight. So I feel like this one is something that I feel really passionate about. I know I manage the database for our market center, and I actually come from a background of education. So I worked in higher ed for about 7 years before I came into KW. I joined KW in July of last year. So just coming up on a year in July, which is really exciting. It's been such a journey. I know a lot of you are probably new, so you know it can really feel like when you get started that it's like drinking from a fire hose, and I really felt that too when I started. Yeah, I see Amber, you're nodding. Yeah, it's so much information to take in and to learn and everything. So I feel like it's, like I said, almost been a year, and I'm starting to feel like, okay, I know what's going on. I know things within KW. I know the colorisms and everything. And so that's really exciting. So basically, we'll go through the database. We'll go through why it's important, what are some best practices for it as well. And just so you all know, I did drop the materials for tonight in the chat as well. So look out for those. I'll put them in again just in case you came in after I posted it. But you can follow along through there if you'd like to. And I also have been sending these out through the emails as well. So if you don't have it, it's there as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. Actually, one of the things that I know some of the instructors like to do is to see if you have anything that you've learned throughout the other Ignites that you'd like to share before we get started. Does anybody have any like ahas or things that they really felt like were especially helpful for them as they've been going through the classes? I'd love to hear from a couple of you before we kind of get started.
This is Aisha. I did learn, well, I guess they gave a different perspective. I can't remember the presenter right now, but just offering different services versus buying or selling, just being a resource for other housekeeping vendors or services.
Yeah, that's great. What did they talk about, things like working with renters and stuff like that as well?
I think they touched on it. I've had a lot of education these last couple of days, so I might be a little all over the place. I don't, if it has been discussed, I don't know if it was done in great detail. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may have touched on it though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I know that a lot of times real estate agents will get into working with investors, or they might buy an investor property themselves, and then they're able to rent it out and have all this real estate knowledge and understanding like what kind of renovations make sense and those types of things. So that's also a great way to go if you're interested. That's one of the things I love about KW is there's so many pathways. You know, you can be an agent starting out, you can build a team, you can become a mega agent, or you might find that you like to be a coach, or you might find you'd like to, you know, move into leadership, or you'd like to work with investors. It's all kind of what you'd like to do and finding that pathway within KW. So that's really cool that they talked about like there's different things that you can do in addition to just working with buyers and sellers. Awesome. Does anybody else? Yeah, Amber, go ahead.
I think for me, not last night, the night before last, but Rachel.
Yeah.
right now I'm in the process of working with a buyer, and I didn't even know where to find the buyer presentation, the buyer questions. And so that was so helpful because she gave me a lot of information that will help me like right now, and the other nights were very helpful, but like my takeaway right now is what I need right now. And that was that.
Yeah, it was like super relevant in that moment. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I love that too, that like, you're saying you're going through Ignite right now, obviously. When did you start with your brokerage? Was it recently or?
I started last year in November. I affiliated, and yet I just started like a month ago.
So kind of like getting back into it and starting to really work with people and stuff like that.
Yes, I didn't start at all. I just literally affiliated, and life happens, and I should say, I was just able to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I mean, if you started a month ago and you already have a buyer, that's amazing. So, but I love that mentality of like, you're clearly still learning, you're going through Ignite now and everything like that, but you're still setting yourself out there and working with people. And I think a lot of times I hear from agents, especially from the coaching department perspective, is they'll say, I'm going to trainings, like I want to learn first, and then I'll start working with buyers or sellers. When in reality, like the best way to learn is just to go for it and know that you have, your brokerage, if your brokerage has coaches and things like that, you have those people behind you to help you. So it's not like you're going out on your own, but just the fact that you had the confidence to go and do it. That's amazing.
My thing isn't more so lead generation. It's when I have the clients, what do I do? And that's been, I guess, my struggle. I don't know about everybody else's, but that's been my struggle. Like, okay, I have people, but what do I do with them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think mine is like the opposite. So I had to kind of like slow down so I can start to learn everything else versus lead generation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. If the lead generation is a natural skill for you, then that's amazing. That's going to come in handy so much moving forward.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so what I want to do is give you an idea of kind of what we'll talk about today with the database, and maybe that'll even help you like with once you're doing that lead generation, getting all these people, getting them into a database, and then being able to have that constant communication. Excuse me. Sorry, my allergies are also really bothering me today, so just bear with me. But yeah, just being able to have that consistent communication, using systems to automate things so that you're working smarter, not harder, and being able to leverage the systems that you have access to so that you're not having to do as much. So I'm sure you guys have seen this slide every Ignite evening, so you definitely recognize it by now. But just to show you kind of what we're actually going to be focusing on, technically the database is part of lead generation. So while we're not necessarily going into like how to make calls and scripts and things like that tonight, it's going to show you how to do lead generation that's a lot easier within your database and making it work for you essentially. So we'll go ahead and go into it. And this is kind of an overview of what we're really going to talk about today. So the first thing we'll go into is kind of what is a database? What does that all really entail? We'll go into like, what's the purpose? Like, why is it so impactful to have a really good database and not just one that's like an Excel sheet that just has a few different people or just people in your phone? Like, why is it actually good to have a system in place for your database? Then we'll also go into how to develop that database and how to really build it up and how to add in things that make it more impactful, like tags and segmenting it and those types of things. So we'll really go into that as well. I do want to spend about 10 to 15 minutes today doing lead generation as well. It's the evening, everybody's at home, so it's really great to take advantage of that. So I will say that we'll do that for a little break in the middle as well. And then we'll go into, I'll show you some things in Command. So as KW agents, you all have access to Command for free. That's included for you. So I'm going to show you how to actually start adding people to Command, and I'll show you a couple of things with Smartplanes as well. So if you haven't heard of Smartplanes, it's basically drip campaigns and we call them Smartplanes within KW, but setting up those automated emails and things like that. So I'll show you how to do that as well with the technology. And that's basically what we'll do tonight. And if anybody has questions, we have a relatively small group tonight. So please, interrupt me, ask questions. You can put things in the chat, but also feel free to go off mic and ask questions there as well. So we'll go ahead and go forward. And I really just want to go into kind of what the big picture is of a database. Why is it something that you care about? And the reason is that it's because it does really produce those leads. If it's managed by a powerful schedule, it's going to produce those predictable flow of leads. And we'll talk a little bit about kind of what the return on investment actually looks like when you have a good database. But really, it's that living record of the business relationships that you have, because you're constantly changing it, updating it, adding notes. So it's consistent and relevant. And it also helps you nurture and manage those relationships through things like those smart plans that I talked about. And it does, like I said, show you that predictable return on investment so that you know kind of where you are, today, but also in a year or in 3 years based on who's in your database and who's at certain points within the database. It just makes it so much easier to kind of navigate where your business is going, essentially. And it does also allow you to improve and strengthen the relationships that you have, because it's gonna, and we'll talk about this too, but it'll give you the ability to add in personal touches so that you don't have to remember all the little facts about people. It'll be in the database so that when you're reaching out to them, it's right in front of you. And it's really gonna show people that you do care and that you do remember them, and they're not just a person in their database, they're somebody that you care about. And so that's basically what I wanted to show you, is the big picture of the big reason that we're actually working on the database so much. Now what I want to do is actually have, and if you're working out of the student manual, there is a section for this as well, but I want to take just like 5 minutes to have everybody kind of go in and write their answers to these questions that are here. And then what I'll do is I'll have one person answer each of these questions. They won't answer all 4, but I'll have somebody each answer them. But the first question is, what is the purpose of your database? Then what makes a database valuable? What other industries use a database for prospecting and marketing? And what makes targeted marketing effective? So if you just take 5 minutes to really write down some answers for that. And then, like I said, I'd love to have some people share. Does anybody have any questions before we go into that? One of the things that you might have heard about in past Ignite classes, and it is one of those Kellerisms that I mentioned earlier, is the ahas, and having other people share things to answers like this, is that not only do we want to have other voices in the room, but we want to also give people the opportunity to help other people. So AHA stands for Agents Helping Agents. The reason for that is I can easily answer all these questions, but you might have a unique perspective that I've never heard of, or maybe you'll say something that helps somebody think about it in a different way. So when I ask these questions, that's really the goal, is that you might have some unique perspective that's really helpful. Or if not, then maybe it's the same thing somebody else is thinking, and then that just validates that what they're thinking is accurate. So I think that helps with that too. So that's kind of the purpose behind asking you guys to be a part of the conversation. So now that you've had a chance to think about these questions, if somebody doesn't mind answering the first question, what is the purpose of your database?
I wrote to grow your business and make connections.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I think that's great, especially because, it's making those connections, but it's also just making it so much more organized as well. Do you use a database currently, Aisha?
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Hey, that's better than just, no, I don't have one at all.
Yeah. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so how about the second question? What makes a database valuable? Does somebody want to answer that one? Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I'll go. I said, by not having to remember all you learn about everyone you talk to.
Yeah.
Something to keep your relationship steady the next time you talk.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, actually, so I use our database. So one of my roles with the coaching department with KW Legacy is I do the onboarding for our newer agents. And whenever I meet with them, one of the things I do is I ask for their headshot and 3 fun facts about them. And that's for like introducing them to the brokerage and posting that on our social media and things like that. But it's also for me to be able to add to the database and be like, oh yeah, you told me that you love traveling and that you are going to Greece this summer. And I remember that because I wrote that in the database. So it helps me to remember people and be able to have those good relationships with people too. So that's so great, because there's just no way I'm going to remember all those little details about everybody if I don't have a nice organized way to keep it.
Yeah, makes it more like personable.
Yeah, awesome. Do you use a database currently?
Well, I just got into this business about 2 weeks ago, so I guess I've been typing in my phone contacts and the command and all. So I'll
Yeah.
use it.
Oh, yeah. Well, so actually, if for those of you who are newer right now, who haven't necessarily got their contacts into Command yet, or well, yeah, specifically Command, there is an app that you can download. It's called Covey Export. Have you all heard of that one before?
Yeah, I had a real tough time trying to get it to sync to my Mac.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I just
Well,
went and spent like 3.5 hours typing it on my
oh
contact.
my gosh. Wow.
It was fun.
Yeah. Well, if you use this app, Covey Export, it will export it as an Excel file. And if your market center works with Remarketing, they will actually upload it for you to your Command database, so you don't have to spend 3 hours doing it. So I don't know if I know with KW Legacy, we pay for Remarketing, and a lot of KW market centers do, but they'll do that for you if that's something that you still need.
Okay, good to know. I'll mark that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Melissa, if you've already started, can they still download them or export them for you, or will it double up on the ones you already have in there?
That's a good question. You could actually email Remarketing and say, hey, I already put some of these contacts in. Can you remove the ones that are going to be duplicates if you haven't put any notes yet in? I would recommend doing that. I'm thinking because they're going to have the same phone number and the same email address, it shouldn't actually allow them to upload duplicates. So it shouldn't actually be a problem. But if you email them and specifically ask that, then they can double check it for you and make sure. So the process for Remarketing is you'll send them the Excel sheet of all your contacts, tell them your Command login information, and then they'll do it for you. And you can even add tags as well. And we'll talk about tags as well today, but it's really helpful if like, you know, certain facts about this group of people, or if these people are like your sphere of influence and your SOI, that's a tag you want to use or something. You can add those tags in, and Scotland will make sure that those are all included too. So definitely recommend saving that time there. If your market center doesn't use Remarketing, you might want to consider doing some leveraging where you ask, maybe get like, if you know, like a high school student or something, be like, hey, I'll pay you, you know, $20 to upload these all for me, or $40 to upload all of these for me. And then you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. Looking for those ways to really leverage is a great way to go. But Scott Leroy is really helpful. They'll do it for free. Cool. Okay. So the next question is, what other industries use a database for prospecting and marketing? It's kind of a trick question, I feel like.
I put insurance companies, I don't know, window companies, they all you get solicitation from everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why I was like, it's kind of a trick question, because what industry does not use a database? You know, if you work with any kind of clients, even if it's not like customer, like public facing, if it's like business to business type of thing, you're going to have a database. That's the only way that you're going to be able to remember who's doing what, who wants what, you know, making sure all of that stuff is organized, kind of like Charles had said, is you don't have to remember it if it's in a database. So yeah, that's great. The insurance companies, I was going to also say, like I said, I'm from a higher education background, and I worked in admissions at Towson University actually before, and we have a whole database of all the students who are interested, students who are currently applying, students that are current students, and it's just huge, and being able to use that and use it effectively. That's great. And then the last question is, what makes targeted marketing effective?
Okay, I'll try this one.
Yeah, go for it, Amber.
Okay, so I said you can target a certain demographic, area, income, or needs.
Yeah, I love that. So maybe you know that they're interested in certain types of like Maryland mortgage programs. Like maybe you know these are students or people who have just graduated from college, and you want to let them know like, hey, did you know that if you buy a house in Maryland, you could get your student loans paid off when you go to the closing table? You know, maybe that's something you want to talk to them about. And then once they've said, oh, I'm interested in that, you can connect them with your preferred lender. They can go into the details, but you were the one who actually got them interested. So that's great, knowing kind of that age and where they are with things, definitely. Yeah, and I know for me, with the targeted marketing, it's super helpful for me to know, like when I'm sending out information about trainings that we're doing, I try to look at, okay, who are our top producers? Are they going to look more for masterminds? Are they going to look for these types of business development trainings versus like newer agents? I'm going to be like, hey, Ignite is happening. That's a great thing for you. So having that segmentation makes it so much easier for you to get the right message to the right person. Awesome. Does somebody else want to say something? Heard somebody. Nope. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and go forward from here. So essentially there are 3 different levels of the Millionaire database. So the Millionaire database is based off of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is the book written by Gary Keller, also referred to as the Red Book. If you haven't read that yet, I highly recommend it. If you follow those models, it's really designed to get you to be at that level that you want to be. Just going to make sure everybody is muted. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, so if you're following those models that are in the Red Book, it'll really put you at the place that you need to be with your business. So this is what this database is based off of, is having those different levels. So you start with the essential, but your goal is really to get to the exceptional level. So within the essential section, of course, you're going to need the contact information. You want to have their name, you want to know what their email is, their phone number is, find out if, or mention if you've had any past business with them. Maybe you sold a house for them in the past, or if you have any past contact with them, like maybe you called them in the past and that's how you got them. And so now you're putting them in your database, including that information. And then also the at-will communication. And essentially what this means is knowing what their preferred method of contact is. So you have the phone number and you have the email address, but maybe you know that they prefer texting only. I know when I'm reaching out to agents about things, I know that a lot of them prefer not to look at their emails. So I will text them, and that gets a response so much faster. So knowing what your people prefer is going to actually make it so much better for you to actually make those connections. So knowing that at-will communication is great. And that could be as easy as, let's say, I know we have an agent who always talks about she would go to Panera and she always wears her name tag. She always does it. And people will be like, oh, your name is Jackie. I see you wearing your name tag. And she's like, oh yeah, I can't believe I left my name tag on. Oops, I forgot to take that off. She didn't forget to take that off. She put that on because she knew she was going out into public. So it starts a conversation about being in real estate. And then what she can do is have that conversation and be like, hey, well, are you interested? Or would you be okay if I call you later? Do you prefer calling? Do you prefer texting? And that's just part of that conversation. And then she can keep that in the back of her head. As soon as she sits down at Panera to eat her food, she can put that in her database. And now she has the at-will communication. So she knows how to reach out to that person when she reaches out in like a few days, or if it's later on, whatever it might be for that person. So all of these things, no matter what, you need to have at least this information in your database for it to be effective. It is also possible to still be, reach your goals if all you have is this, but the next levels are definitely going to help make it even more purposeful. So getting to that effective level is you have everything in essential, but you also have these things here. So you've obtained the permission to actually reach out to that person. So for example, when that agent at Panera was like, do you mind if I give you a call later on this week? When the person said yes, that is where the lead turns into a contact. Now that's somebody who has agreed for you to reach out to them and have that back and forth conversation. So having that permission is really important. It's also important to double check if the people that you're putting into your database are on the do not call list. You have to make sure you check that, because if you call them, it can be really bad for you. So just make sure you're checking that as well in terms of obtaining that permission. You also want to do things like collect the personal information, insights, and preferences. So let's say you're talking to somebody and you find out that they just got a new puppy because you're talking on the phone and you hear a dog barking in the background. You might comment on it and be like, oh, I hear a dog in the background. And they're like, oh, we just got a new puppy. That's a thing to include in your database, because let's say 3 months from now, you're going to call that person back and you're going to say, oh, how's Spot the dog doing? And they're going to feel so good about you remembering that. And people like working with people that they like. So having those details is really important. Let's say you also know something like maybe they are into a certain sports team and you want to have a tailgate as a client event. And maybe you know that they're interested in the Ravens. So you're going to have a Ravens tailgate and you're going to invite everybody in your database that you've tagged Ravens fan. So it just makes you that much more purposeful about reaching out to the people in your database. You also want to then be segmenting and grouping people based on all the information in 1 through 6 here. So, you know, if you have their address and you know they're in a certain neighborhood, maybe you segment everybody within that neighborhood together by tags so that, you know, let's say you have a listing coming up in their neighborhood, maybe they'll mention that. It's not necessarily so they'll buy that listing, but it's so that they know that you're in the area and that somebody else in their neighborhood has chosen to work with you. So having those segments is going to make it really powerful that way. And then, of course, you want to have that purposeful and consistent communication. So those are going to be things like those drip campaigns that we talked about, which are called Smartplanes within KW. And those are really cool because within Command, you can create your own. So let's say you want to go in and you want to create your own email campaigns. You want to add in texting and things like that. And that's great. But the nice thing is there's also a library within KW where you can just go find other ones that other people have created, and you can use the ones that are really popular and know that those are already really successful. And you can save time by just using those different smart plans that have already been created. And I'll show you what that looks like too when we go into the technology as well. But it's cool because it will do things like remind you to call this person once a quarter, or it will do things like send emails automatically for you. So it's very powerful in that way. The other thing that I wanted to mention here, and it is a smart plan that we'll go over a little bit later too, and you'll actually be able to see, like take a screenshot of it if you want, for example, is when you have leads, there's something called the 19 touches to connect. And essentially what that looks like is you have 4 touches, which is a quarterly phone call. Then you have 12 touches, which is a monthly email, newsletter, maybe it's a video that you send out. Then you have 2 touches, which are actually direct mail. So those can be things like magnets, calendars, market reports. The thing about sending mailers is you want to think about something that has a long shelf life. For example, my parents got something from a real estate agent when I was in elementary school in the 90s. I am 30, so I look young, but I'm not that young. I mean, kind of, anyway. They got a mailer from a real estate agent in the 90s, and it had local phone numbers on it. So it had like the elementary school, some restaurants, all these different important people within the community. And my mom stuck that magnet on the refrigerator, and it is still there to this day. Some of the businesses on there are not even in business anymore, but some of them are, and she loves it. So that's the kind of shelf life that you want. Calendars are also great because it does last for a whole year. But those local numbers is especially great because, you know, that could stay on somebody's fridge for years and years. So thinking about that when you pick those. And then the last thing is having one touch, which is an annual event. So maybe, for example, at KW Legacy, our preferred lenders or direct mortgage loans and primary residential, they will do something called a pop by pie event where they go to a local restaurant and they have all these different pies for Thanksgiving, and the agents will come pick up the pies from them and take them all to their clients. And that's an event that they do every Thanksgiving. And they are able to drop off the pies and kind of have that one-on-one touch with their clients. So doing that about once a year. And that's for your leads. So these are the people that haven't necessarily connected with you yet, but you think they might be a really good fit. They might be kind of in the market to buy or sell. So you're doing those 19 touches there. If they're a contact and they have agreed to kind of have that two-way conversation with you, it's 36 touches to convert them to actually working with you and where you're their buyer's agent or listing agent. And that looks like 4 touches, which is phone calls that you'll have throughout the year. Then you have 26 touches, which is a biweekly email that's offering some sort of value. So one of the ones that's super, super popular within KW, it's called the bi-monthly neighborhood nurture. And I'll show it to you when we get into command. You can easily take that from the library. It's already set up. You just have to know what neighborhoods your contacts are interested in. You set that up, and then it will send them twice a month information about the neighborhoods that they're interested in. And it'll say, this is the average price. These are the houses that are coming up. And you don't have to do anything, but it's giving your contacts information about the places that they're interested in. And it's your name at the bottom of the email every single time. So one of the things that Jason Abrams talks about, which if you haven't seen him yet, he's at the very top of KW, where he is in charge of the training and education and curriculums. But he basically said, you want to provide value where if you stop providing that value, they're going to notice. You know, if you stop sending that email about the neighborhoods and that person suddenly is interested in getting into buying or selling a house, they're going to look for that email and suddenly it's gone. And they're going to be like, hey, what happened to that email from that agent? That's how you know it had the value that is worth giving to them. So that one is really great and so easy because you only set it up and you never touch it again, essentially. Then there's 2 touches, which are events, get-togethers, and parties. So whether that is something like having a fundraiser for a local charity, or if it's, you know, renting a Santa and having a Santa Picks with Santa event, that's cool. Any of those types of things are really great to kind of give back to your community, but also have get in front of your contacts, essentially, and reminding them that you're somebody that they like and somebody that they might like to work with. And the last thing is those 4 touches, which are those mailers. So we talked about magnets, we talked about calendars, those types of things. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a few slides. So I know that's a lot of things I just talked about, but you will be able to take a screenshot of that and see exactly what it all is. I know I do want to get to one more level, and then I want to see if anybody has any questions. But once you've kind of mastered the essential and effective levels, you want to go to that exceptional level. And this is the automation. This is where you have, you know, those smart plans in place that are actually telling you, hey, you know, you haven't contacted this person in the last 3 months. Now it's time to reach out to this person. And through commands, you can actually see that on your homepage. It has tasks that you need to do. So you don't have to remember that you need to call or text them once a quarter. It reminds you for you. So it just saves you so much thinking space to do other things. And you just do what your database tells you, essentially, because you have it so well set up with automation. We actually have, for agents who are onboarded, we have something called the Agent Development Plan, which is designed for those who are in coaching, which at KW Legacy, everybody's in coaching. Coaching is included. So essentially what they do is we put them on the first 30 days plan. And it's like, okay, you go through each week. These are the things you need to do. And once they finished everything on the 30-day plan, it automatically triggers them to go onto the 60-day smart plan. And it tells them what they need to do for the next 60 days. And then it triggers it to the 90-day plan. So you can do something like that too for your contacts. And it's so nice because you can just do it without thinking about it. So I just threw so much information at you. Do you all have any questions or any things that you'd like to share that maybe you're doing at a high level that you think would be helpful? Nope. Okay, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and go forward. So we talked about what is a database, and then we want to go into really why we should use it. I think we've covered that a little bit, but I want to show you like really truly why it's so impactful. And there's really 2 reasons. The first one is to avoid the today trap, you know, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. And then the other one is to have a predictable return on investment based on the number of people that are in your database. And we'll talk about that as well. And that kind of goes into the costs and what you can expect on the return on your money when you're working on a database. So for the today trap, there's really 2 types of businesses. There's today's business and tomorrow's business. And someone who works at a really high level with their database is working on both of these. You're thinking about today, but you also have plans set up for tomorrow so that you know that, you know, when this deal that you're working on right now, thinking about it 100% is over, you have something else waiting in the pipeline. Something you might have already heard through Ignite so far is that it takes typically about 3 months for you to get to actually start doing lead gen, find a buyer or seller, get through the whole offer process, closing, everything takes about 90 days, which is 3 months. So if that's the case and you're only working with one person at a time, what that means is at the end of 3 months, now you have to start the process all over again, and you won't have another person for another 3 months. So by working with both today and tomorrow's business, you're essentially setting it up so that you're working with your one person now, but you're also still cultivating all these relationships. So as soon as you're done with this one, you can work on with the next one, or even get to a point where you're working with multiple people at once, which of course is the ideal situation if you want to be the full-time agent. So I wanted to kind of show you what this really looks like. Imagine that you're working with your market and there's 100 people in that market. These are the people that you have in your database. You know that these are people that you could be working with. Now, keep in mind that about 65 of those are actually looking to be homeowners and 35 of them are not. So we're going to completely delete 35 people from this list. Then when you think about it, 58 of those are actually off the market. So there's only 7 people who are truly searching for somebody to work with to buy or sell a house. But the reality of it is, even within these 7 people, you're looking for that one person that's not already represented by another agent. So if you're only focusing on these people one at a time, it really just takes you out of the market with all these other people. And it's important to keep in mind that according to the National Association of Realtors, people move every 10 years. And I don't know if you've all seen the wave before, but essentially there's like a wave where people at the top of the wave will buy or sell a house. And then there's that kind of down part of the wave, and then they'll buy or sell a house again. And in between that time is about 7 to 10 years. So if you only work with people when they're at the crest of the hill, 7 to 10 years is a long time. They're going to forget you by the next time. So you need to be actually having all of these touches in between the crest of the hill, so that by the time they get to the next one, they're still thinking about you. They're still the person that you're still the person that they always are thinking about. So that's why it's super important to work with all of these people. The other thing to keep in mind is, even if none of these people ever actually want to buy or sell a house, they might have connections to people in a different market, and then they can refer other people to you. Or let's say somebody in this Maryland market knows somebody in Georgia, and they'll tell you, hey, I'm not looking to buy or sell a house, but I have an aunt in Georgia who's looking to buy or sell. Can you help them? What you can do is you can go into the KW network, find an agent in Georgia, maybe interview them, make sure you know they're a good person, and then connect them with that person and charge them a referral fee. So even though you're not actually the one who's doing all the work, you've referred them, and you still get some profit out of it as well. So that's why it's important to really work with everybody all at the same time. The other thing I wanted to go into was that return on investment. So I know I had talked a little bit about kind of the cost and being able to predict how much money you're going to make based on how many people are in your database. So typically it's about an average ratio of 10 to 1 to 14 to 1. So every $1 that you spend, you can expect about $14 back. Some agents within KW who are using their database at a really high level, they'll see ratios as high as 40 to 1, where they spend $1, they make $40. The nice thing for you is that if you're using Command, which is that KW database, it's free for you. You're not really paying for anything unless you're deciding to use other vendors, like maybe you're integrating Twilio, which is a mass texting service, or MailChimp, which is a mass email service. You can choose those things, but you could also just use Command and it's completely free. So that's really nice for you to know. And to be able to kind of expect how much money you're spending, how much money you can expect to come out of it. Kind of going into the costs a little bit, I do want to talk a little bit about kind of the important considerations when you're looking at your database and why you should use it. So the first thing is that it's the lowest lead cost. When you're doing this, you want to work with the people who are in your sphere of influence, the people that you know and like, because those are not leads you had to pay for. Those are people that were already in your phone. Now, of course, you could pay for leads, you could pay for Zillow leads, you could pay for Opcity. You could do whatever you want with getting different leads, but if you work with the people who are already in your sphere of influence, the people you already know, then obviously that is free. So getting those people in your database and knowing that you can use them is really powerful. It's also important to know that the lowest conversion cost is where you're working with that database that has those automated plans, knowing that you're not having to pay anything extra for those. And that also the people who are in your database are going to refer you to other people and they'll be repeat clients. So, you know, if they liked working with you in the past, then they probably will like working with you in the future. And just knowing that, you know, if you are working with that person and they have a good experience, you could be the only real estate agent that they'll ever work with. And that's so nice. I know, for example, at our brokerage, we had somebody who just joined a team. She was coming in as a marketing person. She wasn't a real estate agent, but she was going to do all the marketing. And she bought a house right as she was joining the team. And they were like, how could you have had somebody else represent you when you're joining a real estate team? And she's like, well, this is the person that my family has always used. You know, my parents used them, my sister used them, all this. And they looked up that agent and they were like, that was the only two transactions they've done in the last 5 years. But that doesn't matter because that's the person that her family uses. That's the person that they have a relationship with and that they like. So if you have those types of relationships with people, then that can be you as well. Now, hopefully you'll have more than 2 transactions in 5 years, but if not, then at least you know you have a repeat customer there too. And then the last thing is that it really does pay for itself. If you're good at that consistent follow-up, if you are having those automated emails go out and things like that, then it's going to end up paying for itself. And you'll see that it really just makes your life so much easier with the automation and things of that nature. So I'm going to pause here. Does anybody have any questions or any aha moments that they'd like to share so far? And also I'm going to take a drink. And if not, that is okay. So going forward, I'm actually going to switch up the order of things a little bit. I would like to take about, let's say, 15 minutes to do a little bit of lead generation. So that's really the point of Ignite, is to get you into business. We want you to have the foundational skills to get through, but we also want you to be able to making those connections. This is a great time to call people because it's not too late yet. Dinner time is kind of over and they are home. So I would recommend taking this 10 to 15 minutes, either send messages to people like text messages, or you can do social media direct messages, or you can do phone calls. The only thing really doesn't work for lead generation is when you're just like posting on Facebook or you're just like commenting on things, because that's not a quick response back and forth. But you know, social media, if you want to message somebody on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, that's totally fine. Meeting people where they're at is great. We actually just did a training last week about marketing and how social media is just this crucial tool that, you know, if you're not a super big social media person, you really can't afford to be a business owner and not use it at all. So whether that's having an Instagram page, having a Facebook page, even just having your own personal page where you're active, you know, that's where the people are. So if you would prefer to do it that way, that's fine. But I do want to take just about 10 to 15 minutes to do that. And if you're thinking about like what you would want to say, has anybody heard of the Ford, the Ford method? And if so, does anybody want to explain what it stands for?
Just
go
like
ahead.
build rapport, like family, occupation, recreation, and dream, desire. Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yep.
Connect with people to see that you're interested in them, and then they'll kind of relate back to you that way.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of finding what their motivation is, you know, finding out, you know, if they have, let's say family wise, you know, it's graduation week basically for lots of high schools and colleges right now. So maybe you find out that the person you're calling, their youngest child just graduated from college and they're about to move out. Well, that tells you that now it's kind of empty nest. Maybe they want to look for a smaller house or something like that. So maybe that's a conversation that you get to start there because you know a little bit about their family or their situation. So I would recommend doing that. It just shows that you do care about people. It just finds out the motivation at the same time. It makes the conversation also about them. People love to hear themselves talk. So the more you let them talk, the more they're going to like you. So being a listener, my favorite thing to say is, you have one mouth and two ears for a reason. Use your ears. And that also takes some of the pressure off of you if you're not like Amber and lead gen doesn't come easy for you where it's not your favorite thing. It gives you the opportunity to kind of let them talk. So that's what I would recommend there. Let's take about, let's say until 7 o'clock and just do some lead generation. And then we will come back and I'll see if anybody, I'd love to see who has kind of made connections with people. And if you have anything you'd like to share at that point. So we'll come back at 7 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions before we do that actually? Okay, so we'll go ahead and come back. And I actually joined you guys in your lead generation. I'm working on trying to build my profit share, which if you're with KW and you haven't heard about profit share, essentially what it is if you know somebody who's interested in getting into real estate, or if they're in real estate, but they're not like super happy where they are yet or at the time, if you actually introduce them to KW and they choose to join a KW, then you will get a commission every time they have a closing. And that doesn't come from that agent. It comes from KWRI, the international headquarters. So it doesn't affect that agent at all. And you also don't have any responsibility to it. You're not having to be a mentor. You're not having to teach them anything. If you want to, that's great, but if you don't have to, but you basically just get a thank you commission every time they have a closing from KW. So I'm trying to grow mine. So I actually was texting some of the people who just passed the real estate exam and inviting them to a seminar that we have about how to join and why they should join and everything like that. So I just messaged some people. So I'd love to hear, have you guys had any success? Did you get to talk to anybody? How many people were you all able to reach? And I know, Amber, I saw you were definitely on the phone. Did you get to talk to somebody? It looked like it was going well.
Yes, I actually called one of my old clients and just to catch up and tell her I'm a real estate agent now. And I got her email, her address, and just to just to see what she was up to. So I caught up a little bit too. And she just informed me that she was like, oh, well, I'm gonna contact my sister and see if she wants to buy a house together. So I was like, she was like, we already got a real estate agent. So I'm like, yes. So.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And if you help both her and her sister, you get everybody in their network, both of them too, which is so cool.
Exactly. So fingers crossed.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did anybody else have any success while they were texting and DMing and calling?
One of my friends that I used to work with is actually looking for a home because her son's starting school and she wants to make sure he's in the correct school district. So I'm finishing texting back and forth with her right now to see if I can set up a time to meet personally with her and find out what all they need.
Awesome. Yeah. So that kind of goes along with that Ford method, like the family piece, obviously that's a huge motivator for that person. Congratulations. That's awesome. Awesome. Does anybody else want to share? If you want to put it in the chat too, that's also fine. If you don't want to come off mute, that's fine. I'm also hoping that some of these people text me back as well. Cool. Well, and actually I really like having some kind of event that I'm inviting people to. So for example, we're having our career day that I mentioned. So I was like, oh, it's on June 10th. Let me know if that's something you'd like to attend. I'll send you the information. But if you do like a first time home buyer seminar, that can be a great way to reach out to them and saying like, hey, we're having this first time home buyer seminar. It's going to be on Zoom or it's going to be in person. Just wanted to see if you'd be interested in attending. It's super low stakes. They probably do want to learn things about being a first time home buyer. You could even, if you don't feel like especially if you're newer and you don't feel 100% sure about doing that yet, you could even bring a lender with you. I know our preferred lenders will go with our agents to open houses to help and be an expert in the room. They can even help with pre-approving people who come to your events and things like that. So definitely something to consider if that's something that you're interested in doing, and a great way to start the conversation with people. Awesome. I'm glad that you guys had some success even just in 10 minutes. I just think that shows how powerful it is to do lead generation. And I'm sure, I don't think you guys have had the lead generation class yet, but there is a lead generation class within Ignite. And essentially the model is such that you would spend 2 hours doing lead generation 5 days a week. So normally people will do it for full-time agents. They'll do it 9 to 11. That's kind of considered your lead gen time when you do your one thing, the one thing that you do that if you did nothing else, you would still have a successful business. That's kind of when that is. So that's awesome that you guys had that much success in just 10 minutes. So going forward, I wanted to talk a little bit about how to actually develop your database now. So you, of course, have things like your sphere of influence already, but let's say you want to really build it even more. You want to be able to add people to that database on a consistent basis. So there's 2 ways you can do that. There's marketing and then there's prospecting. And there is actually a class within Ignite called Marketing and Prospecting where you guys will dive really deep into these things. But there's the 2 options here. And at the top of the pyramid, you'll see marketing. And that is more money intensive. Maybe you're paying for Facebook ads. Maybe you're paying to send out mailers like postcards. Maybe you're paying for any of those types of marketing pieces. It is more passive, so it's less time intensive. You know, you just set it and forget it type of thing. Like if you set up Facebook ads to your command, obviously you're not having to do anything with that. And then the leads that it collects are going to be automatically sent into your database. So it is a little easier in that passive way. But it's also set up for long-term results. You know, if you're doing that marketing piece, like for example, using Facebook ads, it's collecting buyer leads and they might be interested in working with you, but maybe it's not right away, but you're getting them in your database so you can start working with them. Whereas prospecting is at the bottom of the database, or is at the bottom of the pyramid. And if you remember the food pyramid that we all learned about when we were younger, the things at the top are definitely helpful, but you have less of them. And the things at the bottom are the pieces that are really the core of your diet. It's going to spend the most time there. And that's why prospecting is at the bottom of the pyramid, taking up the most of your time. It is more time intensive because prospecting is really more the lead generation where you're calling people and you're doing the DMing and you're doing the texting and those types of things, or maybe you're at events, you know, doing networking and talking to people. So definitely more time intensive. It is also more proactive. You are going out and finding people and you are actually reaching out to them and taking the action in that way. But it's also set up for immediate results because you are talking to somebody in that moment and you can say, hey, are you interested in buying or selling a house? Or do you know somebody who's interested in buying or selling a house? And they can respond right away and say yes or no. So you know right away, and then you can get the ball rolling and starting working with it. So there's 2 ways to collect your leads and get them into your database. And it's just a matter of kind of finding that balance for your business and what works best for you. But really lead generation is going to be the core and the piece that is the most impactful for you in your business. Then you want to be looking at the people. Once you're consistently feeding your database, you want to look into segmenting it. We've talked a little bit about tags already. So we talked about things like tags for people who like Ravens or Steelers or whatever your team is. Or you can have tags about different hobbies and interests. You could do property types, like maybe they're interested in luxury, or maybe they're interested in townhomes. Maybe they're interested in duplexes or single family homes, whatever it might be. Maybe it's an investor and you know that they're looking for those cheaper homes that they can flip and make a profit on. Or maybe you have your vendors in there, like those lenders that we talked about. Those relationships can be so powerful. So you're going to want to have them in your database as well. I did want to ask, does anybody have any like other tags that they think would be helpful to include when they're segmenting out their database?
I did when I meet people at open houses, I made a tag for open houses, and or like maybe I know they had family and friends or things like that on there too. So yeah. But
yeah,
the one I created, and I created VIPs, and VIPs are my most important people. Oh well, yeah. It's on there. My bad. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't mention it, so that's great. Yeah, I think the VIP is really good because you know that that's somebody that maybe they've worked with you in the past, or there's somebody that works with you over and over again. I think that's fantastic. So you mentioned open houses, and I wanted to also mention when you're building your database within Command, there is a section that has the lead source as well. Open house is more, I think it can go either way, tags or lead source, but let's say you're buying leads from like Zillow or OpCity or some other lead source, Boomtown, whatever it might be. You want to actually include that in the lead source section, which looks like the tag, and I'll show it to you all when I go into Command with you. The reason for that is you want to be able to look at the conversion rates of when you buy those leads, how many of them are actually turning into business. And that'll help you determine, like maybe you do it for 3 months and then you look at the conversion rates. And if it doesn't look good, maybe you say, hey, that lead source is not for me. Or it tells you that maybe I need to do something. I need to practice my scripts. I need to, figure out how to overcome objections, whatever it might be. But it gives you that information to know whether the lead source is something you want to continue paying for. So open houses, I think, can go either way, but that could also be considered a lead source, because really the whole point of the open house is to get the buyer leads at this point. Awesome. Does anybody else want to add any other tags that maybe that we didn't think of, or something that's worked really well for them? Okay, cool. So I do want to show you, like I said, the tech demo. I'm going to show you how to add a contact, everything like that. So as a KW agent, if you're all KW, you should have access to Command, included as being an agent with us. So this is what my dashboard looks like. So I mentioned I use some Smartplanes that put tasks on my dashboard for me. You actually see right here in the tasks, I have a follow-up call or text to this person. She's a profit share person. So it's reminding me like, hey, you need to text that person. Actually, I did text them tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and check it off. And then I know that I did that. So it'll actually go away from my dashboard. So it's cool because I don't have to remember that I haven't reached out to Marie in a while. My database reminds me that I need to do that. So you can see that there, but I do want to show you how to actually add a contact if you haven't done that in Command yet. So the first thing to know is when you go into Command, at the top left, it says KW. If you click that, it'll show you the description of all the applets that you have here on the left. So if you haven't memorized what each of these icons means yet, you know that you have like a little cheat sheet right there. So I'm actually going to go into contacts here. And from here, and Zoom does slow down Command, so just bear with me a little bit here. But from here, I'm going to click add contact over here on the top right. And then let's say that I just met, let's say, Mickey Mouse. And his email is mickey@disney.com. And let's say I don't have his phone number just yet, but I got his email. Maybe it's a lead I paid for. So I'm going to put that information in there. Since I don't have his phone number, I'm actually going to try to reach out to him and try to get that information. It's always a great way to reach out. Like maybe I'm going to, let's say I'm going to have a raffle as an agent. So I'm going to reach out to him and be like, hey, join this raffle, put your information in here, and then somebody will win this Amazon gift card. That way I'm getting his contact information and I know that it's correct. It's way better to get the information directly from the source than to try to just like look it up on Yellow Pages or try to look it up on some other way. So I'm going to find that information. And then I know I'd mentioned to you all the lead source. So that's here. So you can see some different ones that Command automatically recommends, like Boomtown, Brivity, some other ones that you might see are OpCity. You might see Zillow. So all kinds of different lead sources that you can pay for if you want to. So we'll say Mickey is a Zillow lead. I've added that in there. And then here are where your tags are. So you can add all kinds of tags here and you can create new ones too. So within the tags, they have some recommendations. So maybe they like boxing, but maybe Mickey really enjoys boxing, or maybe he likes cats, which we know he actually likes dogs because of Pluto. So let's say right away he's a dog lover. So if I have a charity event at the local Humane Society, maybe I'm going to invite all the people who have the dog lover tag. So I'll make sure that Mickey gets invited to that. You can also add additional information as well by clicking add additional information. If I had additional contact information for him, like we had talked about communication at will, knowing which communication form he prefers. In this case, I have the email, so I'm going to say that. If you knew what his address was, that would be really helpful because you could know like what neighborhood he's in. That'll help you with kind of sending information about the neighborhood. Like maybe you want him to sell his house and you can say, hey, this is the prices of the houses that are selling in your neighborhood, that type of information. You could also include his birthday if you knew that. That's helpful because there's actually a smart plan for sending birthday messages. So if you know the birthday, the smart plan will automatically send a happy birthday message from you on his birthday every year, and you don't actually even have to think about it. Same thing with home anniversary, maybe even more powerful if you've worked with that person in the past, but having as much information in here as possible. And then if there are other additional things that maybe you want to include yourself. So for example, earlier I had mentioned about the Pop By Pie event that our lenders do, where you can come and get the pies for your clients. So maybe an extra field that I want to include is pie flavor. We'll say that Mickey's favorite pie flavor is pumpkin. So now I know for next Thanksgiving when I'm picking up a pie for Mickey that I'm going to get him the one that he likes. Pumpkin. Oh my God, you guys. There we go. Pumpkin. So now Mickey is in my database and I can actually look him up right here. And he's right here. And by clicking on him, you can see all the information that you've included in here. You could also add notes. So like if you were to have met with Mickey, you could say like a phone call. We could say just proposed to girlfriend, Minnie. You know, you can add all of these different details in here and it just helps you have more information for that person. Within here as well, you can also see the smart plans that we talked about. So you could add him directly to a smart plan from here, but first I want to actually show you where to find smart plans and look through the library. So as a reminder, smart plan is a drip campaign. It's where it sends automated emails. It sends you automated tasks on your dashboard to remind you to reach out. And it can also send text messages if you have integrated Twilio, which is a mass texting service, to your command. So let's go ahead and go to smart plans. So clicking the red KW at the top left again and coming to smart plan.
Can I ask a question about
Absolutely.
the page you're on now?
Oh, yeah.
When you click on the plus and you can enter in, say I emailed somebody and I want to notate that I had emailed them, that doesn't send them an email if their email address is in there, does it?
No, yeah, that's a good point. Let me actually get back there.
The reason it confused me because it asked for the subject line, which you typically wouldn't put in if you're just putting notes on the email that you sent somebody.
Right. So you were saying, yeah, you said the plus sign here and you meant this one, right? To add the note.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, no, I'm sorry. If
Or add activity.
you're on the time, mine, yeah, add activity. So email, and then it asks for the subject line. So that confused me a little bit, thinking that it's going to actually send the email to the contact. Because if I'm just making a note of an email I sent, I wouldn't necessarily put, I don't know, my thinking, I wouldn't put subject line in there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let me double check. Yeah, because it's the same way, like if you put in a call information here, it's not going to call that person automatically. So it's the same thing with an email. I think with the subject, it's just kind of reminding you what the subject of the email was.
Okay.
If you wanted to, you could copy and paste it here.
Okay.
I also think that if you set up emails through command and it sends those emails automatically for you, it will actually record it here. So I think that's why the subject is there, is if you had done automated emails.
That was my next question. So you can actually email through contact? I mean, through,
Yeah,
command?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually, let me show you that really quickly. If we go back to our contacts, let's say I was gonna email all of my contacts. You can actually click this right here, this button that that checks all of your contacts. Of course, you might want to filter it, which you can do through here. You click filters. You can look through your tags. For example, let's say I want to email all the agents that I have in my database. Then you would just go ahead and come over here and click apply, and then it will filter it for you based on those tags. That's why those tags are so important. And then you can come over here to select bulk action, and it will automatically let you, and I might not have my email set up to this. So in this case, it's going to add to an email list because I haven't set up my email to connect to my command, but you can do that. But you'd be able to add them to an email list. You could also send a text message if you've connected Twilio, but it's about, you have to integrate your email with it to work. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. All right, but that's helpful just to kind of show people how to filter when you're looking at your contacts as well. Does anybody else have questions so far? The other thing I can do for you all, because I know this is kind of quick and an overview, I can send you some videos that KW has created to kind of take you through commands so that you can learn how to do all of these. There is actually one that's all about the database and how to build it and everything. And that's what I did when I started. I spent the week just watching all of those videos. And it was super helpful for me. It's kind of tedious, but it's going to be so powerful. So I'll send you all that too tomorrow when I send all of the information. But to quickly show you Smartplanes as well. So again, that's over here on the left in the applets. And I just want to show you how you can search those. So when you're looking at the Smartplanes, at the top here, you see My Smartplanes. So these are going to be the ones that either you've created or you've downloaded from the library. So you can see automatically, I have Smartplanes for my profit share. I have that neighborhood nurture we mentioned, biweekly neighborhood nurture, which is just a little bit more, happens a little bit more frequently than the monthly one. So those are the ones that I have used or I have created. And then you can also look over here at library. This is where it's really nice because it'll save you so much time. When you're looking in here, you can automatically see which are some of the most popular ones. So there's some featured ones, for example. This is my long-term nurture. You can see easily how many people have downloaded it. So 13,000 people have downloaded this one. It has 4.5 stars out of 5, which is really great. I would recommend really using anything 4 or higher is probably a really good smart plan. You can even see who's created it. And then you can actually just click add smart plan, and that's going to add it to the ones that you have. So I'm just going to download it. And now it's going to be in the ones I have, so I can add them to my contacts. I do want to show you the most, probably the best one that's really helpful is the monthly neighborhood nurture. And it came right up, it was right there. So it's right here, you can read the description. It shows you how to reach out to your clients, has 102,000 downloads, 4.5 stars. And again, you can see who created it, Keller Williams. So obviously that's a really popular one. I think I've already downloaded this one. But so it's helpful to look through and see what works for you. You can also click, once you have downloaded them, you can actually click through and see all of the ones, like see what's actually in there. So for example, if we wanted to look at this one, for example, I can bring it down and then you can see what all the steps are in it. So it sends an email and then you can see what the email would look like. It shows you how much delay is in there and then it restarts it and everything like that. So it's just cool to be able to see these. You can edit them. So like if you wanted to edit to include your specific information in it, like your phone number, your name, your contact information, I do highly recommend that so that the people see your name every time. So like I've included specific information about Marilyn in this one in my name. Charles, I see you have a question or something you want to share.
Yeah, I do have a question because actually right where you're at is where I'm having some difficulties with. We see where it says contact first name and the hyphen there, the blue line.
This one?
Now, yeah, I'm trying to do the promote my app version of that. And it says like, hi, this is Charles Edwards with Charles Edwards at Keller Williams Select Realtors.
Okay.
How do I change that from saying this is Charles Edwards at Charles Edwards? It just sounds kind of weird. I'd rather put like the McDowell team or where I'm at.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So is it like is it this kind of thing where it's blue, where it's automated? Okay. What I would do is honestly just delete it. And then you can type out what you wanted to actually say. So you could say, hi, this is Charles Edward with you said the McDowell team?
Yeah.
And then that'll automatically override what it was. So you just delete that altogether.
I don't know why I made it so difficult. Thank you. I didn't know.
Does he have to do that for each one or just each smart plane he uses?
So you will need to make edits to each smart plan that you use. So, but you only do it once. And then when you use that smart plan, it'll be the same for every contact you put them on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna just delete this so I make sure I don't send that to my people. But yeah, so yeah, you make all these edits. You do have to make the edits to each individual one. So like this particular smart plan has a lot of different emails in it. So I had to edit and add my name and add my links to it and everything. But for something like a text like Charles is sending, you probably just do it once, right? Because how many steps are in your smart plan that you're using?
It's normally just the one step, I believe, the one I was using.
Right. So that's, you would only have to do it once. And so that's definitely helpful. Yeah. Any other questions? That was a great question. All right. I do want to show you. Oh, so great. Go ahead. Did somebody say something?
There's
No, I just said
a message in the chat box.
Thank you. Okay. So I see somebody wrote in the chat. Let me look at this. If you mark them as a lead in command, does that just mark it so you can follow up, or does command think you haven't met them yet? Contacts and leads. So if you mark them as a lead in command, it's really more for you to know that that's somebody that you're working with, and you can kind of check them in your conversion rates. Excuse me. Now, if you have like certain triggers that are set up, it might set tasks for you to reach out to them. But I think really you would need to be putting them on smart plans, and then it'll set those tasks for you. So like maybe you'll take all the ones that are labeled as leads and add them to a smart plan, and then it'll trigger you to either send those texts or whatever it might be. And then I see you have the question about, do you have to create a text plan when you use Twilio? So Twilio does have a cost associated with it depending on how many texts you want per month. So I think the smallest plan is like 300 texts a month. I'm going to see really quickly if I can find that information for you. So this is where you actually integrate different things with command. So I went up to my name at the top, click settings, and it'll take you to your integration. So you can see my DocuSign is set up. And Twilio should be all the way at the bottom. I'm not subscribed on this particular command setup because we use a different one. But when you go through the marketplace, you can see what the costs are for each. I'm sorry, my allergies are starting to get to me. So this shows you how much it costs. So like I said, the smallest plan is extra small. It's $300 per month, and it's just $3.16 per month. So you can kind of pick and choose what works best for you. I do think that having a mass texting service is really powerful because you can have smart plans that send those texts and things like that. And when they respond to your texts, I haven't found that it'll go to my phone, even though I try to set it up to be able to go to my phone, but it will put a notification here at the top. So you'll get a notification if someone responds to your text. And if you have the KW Command app, that'll put push notifications on your phone. So you can kind of check it that way. But usually when I send texts, I'll say, if you have questions, text me at this number, and then I give them my Google Voice number. And I see we have another chat. Let's double check. Okay, cool. Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions so far? Cool. Well, I will send you that command information as well, because I just want to make sure you all have that, because it just is so powerful, and you get it as a KW agent. So learning how to use it can just make it so much easier for you. But those are the main things I wanted to show you. Probably my favorite things in command is the smart plans. So being able to use those and create them with the way that works best for you is really great. So going back, I do want to show you, I know I had mentioned the touches, so the 19 to connect, 36 to convert earlier. If you want to take a screenshot of it, this is what I kind of went through before. There are smart plans that if you actually search 19 to connect, there'll be a smart plan you can set up there. And then the same thing with 36 to convert. And then it's really nice because while some of these will be like actual emails that it might send, it's really going to be giving you those tasks on your dashboard that I showed you when I first logged into my command. So it'll remind me, and you don't have to spend that time thinking about who to call, when is it the right time to call them. So like, I know sometimes what'll happen is if you go in to do lead gen from 9 to 11 a.m., you'll come in, you'll sit down, you'll have your coffee, and you'll be like, okay, now who am I going to reach out today? And you log into your command, go into your database, spend all this time thinking about who you want to contact. If you have these smart plans set up, it'll tell you on your dashboard who it's time to call, so that you don't have to spend that time figuring it out. You can just jump right in and really get going with it. So just being, this again is kind of that working for that tomorrow business, where you're thinking about not just the clients you have right now, but the ones that you're nurturing to be able to work with you in the future. Any questions about this piece? Okay, cool. So essentially there are two different ways to tend your database once you have it going. One of them is building a culture of testimonials and reviews. And these are so powerful. You know, you might have noticed when I send emails out to you all, I ask you to fill out the feedback form so that we know if there's things we need to do to improve on, or if we know where everybody's at with things. Same thing for you when you're working with your clients. We actually recommend asking for your testimonials before the closing is finalized. So maybe you know that there's a closing date that's scheduled and everything is going smoothly, you're good to go. Ask at that point, because you're still relevant to that person. You're still working with them. They're still getting something out of working with you. And that's when they're going to be the most excited, because they're about to go to this closing meeting. So asking for them to write you a testimonial, either on your website, your social media, even if they just email you the testimonial, and then do something with it. Put it on your social media, put it on your Instagram or your website, or whatever works best for you. Because when you build up that rapport with people, you're able to really show other people that you have this value proposition. You're somebody that they're going to want to work with and trust. So just knowing that it's important to ask for the testimonials before you go to closing, because after closing, they're worried about getting all their furniture in and getting things decorated, and they're just not really thinking about you anymore. So just kind of being purposeful about when you ask for those reviews and testimonials. The other thing that you need to do to tend your database is to regularly update and prune it. So let's say you talk to somebody and they say, nope, I'm going to live in this house forever. I never want to move or anything like that. You know, maybe you take them off of certain smart plans. You don't necessarily want to take them out of your database, because maybe they know somebody else that they'd recommend that you could work with. But just going in and making sure that you have people in there that you want to have in there. If you have a bad experience with someone, like maybe you had a client that you ended up firing because they just couldn't make up their mind about something, or they said, oh, I want to see this house. Oh, never mind. And you've taken them to 50 houses. Maybe that's a client you don't want to work with anymore. So you're going to take them out of your database. Just making sure that it is really tight and it is something that is going to help you. The other thing is that your database, especially if you end up paying for leads through like Opcity or Rise or Boomtown, any of those different services, you could get to a point where you have so many leads that you just couldn't possibly work them all. And at that point, that's when I know we have actually a few top producers in our market center who have said, you know, I have hundreds of leads that I'm just not working with. I would like to have other agents work those leads and pay me a referral for those. So he actually goes to our coaching department. We assign leads to agents, and then he gets a 25% referral fee from all those leads. So maybe that's something that you get to at some point when you have so many leads in your system, and you want to obviously have it tight enough that you know that you're able to track that and make sure that you're able to give it to other people as well.
I have a quick question about that. If you buy
Yep.
leads from like Zillow or something like that,
Mhm.
you technically have permission to call them?
If
even
you
though
buy, sorry, go
because
ahead.
they don't know that they had Zillow. They have no clue why Keller Williams has their information.
Yeah.
Do I technically? Okay.
Yeah. So when you pay for those leads, you will want to double check it with the do not call list registry to make sure that you're good to go. But if you paid for those leads, it's kind of part of, you know, where Zillow is selling the people who are using its website's information. I mean, that's just what's happening to everybody at this point. So if you pay for those leads, then you are allowed to contact them, but you would want to cross-reference it with the do not call list.
And the do not call list, because I'm new to this. You just go on the internet and search do not call list.
So there is, actually, I believe it's in here. Let me bring it up really quickly, if I can find it. Okay, so there is a do not call registry. Let me see if there's actually do they have a website here? I think if you just end up Googling the do not call registry, it should come up for you. I can look into that more for you as well and confirm that. If you want, I can find out that for everybody. Let me just make a note of that.
I think you have to pay and you have to, it says you have to be a company. I know when I took one of the classes, they said that your broker should do that, or your office, but then when I spoke to the office, they said they don't do that. So I haven't been able to find a way around that either, other than just talking to people that I know said I could talk to them.
Sure.
Yeah, so that would be good information if you could.
Yeah, let me look into that for you, and I will email everybody what I find out about it. How about that?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I know, like, for example, we're working with a lead flow source for our agents right now. It's called Likely AI, which is artificial intelligence, but they basically use AI to find people who are likely sellers. So they haven't necessarily like raised their hands as sellers, but based on where they live, how long they've lived there, all this different information that this algorithm has pulled together says, okay, these are likely sellers. And actually within it, it's really nice because they tell us if they're on the do not call list or not. So we would tell our agents, okay, this particular lead is a do not call, so you're going to email them instead, or you're going to do door knocking or something like that because it includes the address. So I know certain lead sources will actually include that information. I just don't know if like Zillow or like some of the other ones do. So I will find out for you for sure. Cool. Okay. So let me go back. I know this is like all in your guys' space though. Sorry about that. Well, actually, so that was about everything that I wanted to cover. I know we're finishing a little early tonight, which I think is fine with it being Memorial Day weekend. But I do want to see, yeah, Amber, yes. And also my allergies are killing me. So, but I do want to see if you guys have any ahas, or if maybe if you've been working with a database, if you have any sort of best practices that you've found that are helpful to you. I'd love to hear from you all. I do see that Jackie said, do you need permission to post, or is it implied? When you say permission to post, which I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Posting what?
Sorry, I have put that in when you're asking for a testimonial.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I actually have a closing June 9th. So
yeah.
And I wanted to I think they'll give me a good review. They're always saying nice things about me when I talk to them. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I don't know, I feel kind of strange asking for.
No, I think, I mean, so if you wanted to frame it as like, you know, I really enjoyed working with you, and I would love it if you like let me know how you thought that I did, so that, you know, I can share that with other people, or if you think there's things that I could work on, I'd love to hear that too. And I honestly, I would just say, like, if you send them an email, for example, or whatever it might be, and then just at the bottom just saying, you know, if you send a review, like I would have some type of disclaimer that's like, if you send a review, I am able to post it on social media or something like that, just to cover yourself. I would say it's implied, but it doesn't hurt just to cover you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Amber says congratulations. Yes, congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It was land, so it was very challenging.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because I've had a very hard time finding any information on how to really do a listing with land, or to get help from anybody. And I've called GBBR and everywhere for classes or resources, and nobody seems to be able to give me any information. So.
Yeah, well, so we have an agent at KW Legacy, India Whitlock. She works with land. If you're interested, I could reach out to her and see if she would mind if I gave you her contact information.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I know she loves like do masterminding. She did a training for us a couple months ago on land. So I could reach out to her and see if she'd like to teach a class, and then you all would be welcome to come to that. And B, yeah, if she'd be okay with me connecting you guys.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's definitely like tough to break into that, but once you get in there, that's so awesome. I mean,
yeah, I'm getting a lot of calls from because I'm like, okay, I'll get through this. And now, but I have other people calling me based on that and I'm like, oh, wow, I need to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, if I'm going to make a career out of this, I got to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well, yeah, let me look into different resources for that as well. And I will definitely check with India. I know she loves like mentorship and stuff like that. So she'd probably be a great person for you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other like ahas or questions or things you'd like to share? Anybody?
The aha was the today's and tomorrow's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an aha.
Yeah, I really think thinking in that mindset is really what kind of gets your business going. Knowing that like, I really think that a lot of people just focus on that one person because they're like, yes, I got a buyer, or yes, I got a seller. I'm going to spend all my time on that one person. And then once it's over, it's like, you have this like high of excitement and then it's just
And
dropped.
then it's so
You're like,
low.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think especially if you're transitioning from dual career to full time, that's like the biggest thing to be able to move it to the next level for sure.
I'm still dual career and I'll probably be that way for a little bit. So, but that, moving forward, that was a good thing to hear or to even work toward.
Yeah. And I think I know we had a like presentation a couple of months ago with someone who had transitioned from dual career to full time as well, and she had talked about like she knew she had to have like this certain safety net, and once she had that, she felt like she could go full time and all that. But it's building that up, and I think really being purposeful about setting those goals and being like, okay, yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and kind of knowing like if you know how much money you want to make in a year, okay, how many houses do I have to sell to make that? How many people do I have to call to be able to have those many houses, and working back from there for sure. That's actually what the Set Goals That Matter class really goes into, that model of what that looks like. So I'm sorry that it got moved, but it is definitely June 15th. So tune in for that one because they'll talk about how to build those goals as well. Yeah, cool. All right, let me just check the chat, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Cool. Well,
I have a couple.
Yeah, go for it.
So getting in contact with Scott Leroy.
Yeah.
Because I, like Charles, did the app, and then I was able to move everything to the Excel spreadsheet. But then when I tried to link it to Command, it went all left. So I am definitely going to contact them to get that done. Also, I like the idea of the magnet and putting important information. So for me, I would probably put like the local fire department, poison control, things of that sort. So that was a good one. And I also like the idea of pictures with Santa.
Yes.
Event. That was so cute. I really like that. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I did put Scott Leroy's contact information in the chat, just their email. So just when you do it again, you send the Excel sheet and your command login information. They're going to reformat everything for you, send it back and say, does this look good? You say yes, you do have to respond and say yes, and then they will do it for you. But yeah, no, you said it went to like, it all fell apart when you were trying to import it. I had the same issue. I was like, oh, I got this. Like, I'm going to upload this. It'll be great. And I couldn't do it either. So I sent it to Scott Leroy too. So no shame there. But yeah, that's awesome. The pictures with Santa, thinking about those different holiday events is really cool. And kind of, I know we're doing, our brokerage is planning to do pictures with Santa. We're planning to do Easter Bunny. We're actually thinking about doing a wine pop by as well, where they come and get different wine bottles and it's all working with lenders. So figuring out how to leverage those relationships with vendors. You know, a lot of times they'll do those things for you for free too. They'll do marketing. They will help you with lead generation because essentially they're also getting clients out of it. Of course, you can't force anybody to work with your vendors, but you can suggest them and say that these are people that, you know, work really well and all of that. So yeah, definitely. I think if you even worked with a lender for your Santa event, that could help you with kind of taking care of the costs as well. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. The one before you said something before the wine event. What did you say? Easter.
Yeah, Easter Bunny. It's kind of the exact same thing with Santa, just rinse and repeat, just a different holiday.
So Melissa, would you say then that best practices would be, if we're going to do the magnets, to contact those businesses beforehand and let them know, hey, this is what I'd like to do. I'm a realtor in your area. And then as long as they're okay with it, then you could have the magnets produced?
Yeah, so I would highly recommend that, because not only are you like getting their permission, but you're also telling them that you're doing marketing for them, and then they can kind of start giving you word of mouth advertising too. So that was one of the things that when we taught our social media class, we talked about tagging local businesses. So one of the things that we recommend doing when you're posting on your social media, it's called the 80-20 principle, where you have 80% is like your personal life, 20% is your business. And 80% can be things like hobbies, local businesses that you're shouting out, food from restaurants, that type of thing. And when you tag those local small businesses, they can share your stuff. They can really get excited about that, because you're giving them free marketing too. And then you create this relationship with your local businesses, and they have huge networks as well. So I think it's good to call them for the magnets for their permission, but also that where they'll know you're a real estate agent and they might start recommending you as well. Yeah. Any other things that anybody would like to share? You guys have great things. I love this. I always love doing Ignite. Everybody who goes to Ignite is so cool. I feel like they're excited and like willing to share, and I get so much energy from it, even after like a long day. So I really appreciate you guys. All right. Well, if nobody else has anything they'd like to share, just again, thank you so much for being here with me right before the long weekend. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. And just so you know, I will be sending the information that I promised about Do Not Call Registry tomorrow. I'm going to work on trying to get all of the recordings from this week, so I can send that to you as well. If it's not tomorrow, it'll definitely be Monday is my goal. And if you all have questions throughout the rest of Ignite, I'm your person. Let me know. I'm happy to help with anything. And actually, the last session of Ignite that we did, people were interested in getting emails of other people who are attending Ignite. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know, and I can create kind of an Excel sheet with everybody who'd like to network. And so I think that's a great way to get to know people from other areas, because let's say you're in Southern Maryland, somebody over here is in Northern Baltimore County, you know your area best. So referring it out, getting a referral fee, and getting your client in good hands is such a good way to do that. So networking across even Maryland is great. So let me know if you're interested in that too. But other than that, I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you, Melissa. You did a great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Everybody.